Hey everyone, and welcome back to Talk Emma, the podcast where we take real English, the kind that actually lives in conversations, in writing, in real life, and make it feel natural, logical, and honestly, enjoyable. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jack. Hello, everyone. So happy to be here today, as always.
How are you?
Genuinely, I am okay. I had a good morning. My coffee was perfect. My commute was smooth. I arrived here feeling like a functioning human being, which honestly is a win.
A functioning human being. The bar is on the floor, but I respect it.
The bar is wherever I set it, Emma, and today I cleared it comfortably. How are you?
I am actually really good today. I slept well, which almost never happens, and I woke up genuinely excited about today's topic.
Oh, really? You woke up excited about grammar?
It's not just grammar. Okay, you know when you read something in English and it just flows? Like one idea connects to the next, and everything feels smooth and intelligent and...
Like the person really knows what they're doing?
Exactly. And then you read something else and it feels choppy, disconnected, like someone just dropped sentences on a page and walked away.
Dropped sentences and walked away. I know exactly what you mean.
The difference between those two pieces of writing, or speaking, is very often one thing.
Transition words.
Transition words. The little connectors, the bridges between ideas. The words that make English flow like a river instead of fall like separate rocks.
That's a beautiful image, actually.
Thank you. I've been saving it.
And today, we're going to look at transition words properly. What they are, why they matter, how to use them, and which ones to use in which situations.
Because there are different types, and using the wrong transition word in the wrong place can actually change your meaning completely.
Which we will definitely talk about.
We definitely will. But first, if Talk Emma is part of your English journey, please subscribe to the channel, like this episode, and share it with one person who wants to write and speak more naturally in English.
We upload a brand new episode every single day. Okay, transition words. Let's go. So, Emma, let's start at the very beginning. What exactly is a transition word?
Okay, simple definition first. A transition word or transitional word is a word or phrase that connects one idea to another.
Connects ideas, like a bridge.
Exactly like a bridge. Imagine you have two islands, Island A and Island B.
Okay, I'm imagining. Both islands are beautiful, by the way.
Of course they are. Now, Island A has one idea, Island B has another idea. Without a transition word, you jump from A to B, and the reader or listener has to figure out the connection themselves.
Which is confusing and tiring.
Very tiring. But with a transition word, you build a bridge. The reader walks across smoothly. They understand not just what the ideas are, but how they connect.
So transition words don't just connect sentences, they explain the relationship between ideas.
Yes, that's exactly it. They say this idea adds to the previous one, or this idea contrasts with the previous one, or this idea is a result of the previous one.
So they carry meaning, not just structure.
They carry so much meaning. And once you understand that, transition words stop feeling like grammar rules. They start feeling like tools.
Powerful tools.
The most powerful ones in your writing toolkit.
Let's make this real, because I think the best way to feel transition words is to see what happens without them first.
Oh, yes, the before and after. I love this.
Okay, imagine someone writes this. I was tired. I went to bed early. I couldn't sleep. I lay awake for 2 hours. I got up and made tea. The tea was too hot. I burned my tongue. The morning was difficult.
It's a tragedy, a complete tragedy in 8 sentences.
It is a tragedy, but do you feel how choppy it is? How disconnected?
Every sentence just stops and starts again. There's no flow, no connection. You understand what happened, but it feels like reading a list, not a story.
Now, same story with transition words.
I was tired, so I went to bed early. However, I couldn't sleep and ended up lying awake for 2 hours. Eventually, I got up and made tea. Unfortunately, the tea was too hot and I burned my tongue. As a result, the next morning was very difficult.
Same events, same story, completely different feeling.
So, however, eventually, unfortunately, as a result.
5 transition words and the whole story transformed.
That's the power we're talking about today.
And these are not advanced words. They are not difficult. They just need to be understood and then practiced.
Which is exactly what we're doing right now.
Now, transition words come in different categories because different transitions do different jobs.
And knowing which category to use, that's the real skill. Exactly. So let's go through the main categories, one by one, with real examples, real situations, real conversation.
Starting with the most common one, adding information.
These are transition words you use when you want to say, and here's more. Here's something extra. Here's another point that supports what I just said.
The most basic one, also.
I love learning English. I also enjoy learning about different cultures.
Furthermore, slightly more formal, more emphasis.
The course was excellent. Furthermore, the teacher was incredibly supportive.
In addition, very common in writing and speaking.
She speaks 3 languages. In addition, she is currently learning a 4th.
Moreover, stronger than furthermore, used when the extra point is even more significant.
The project was delivered on time. Moreover, it was under budget.
What's more, very natural in conversation.
The restaurant had amazing food. What's more, the service was absolutely perfect.
See how all of these say, here's more information that supports or adds to what I just said?
They're all moving in the same direction. Same team, same side.
I like that. Same team words.
Same team words. Write that down.
Now, the opposite direction, contrast and surprise.
Oh, these are my favorites because contrast words are where English gets interesting.
These are the words that say, wait, here's something different. Here's the other side. Here's what you didn't expect.
The most famous one, however.
I studied hard for the exam. However, I didn't get the result I expected.
You expect, studied hard, got a good result. But however says, not this time, something different happened.
Nevertheless, similar to however, but stronger, more resilient feeling.
The weather was terrible. Nevertheless, we decided to go for a walk.
There's a little courage in nevertheless, actually.
There really is. Nevertheless says the obstacle existed and we went anyway.
On the other hand, showing 2 sides of something.
Living in the city is exciting and full of opportunities. On the other hand, it can be expensive and overwhelming.
Although, even though, contrast within one sentence.
Although I was exhausted, I finished all my work.
Even though the film had great reviews, I found it quite boring.
Despite, in spite of, very useful, very natural.
Despite the rain, the event was a huge success.
In spite of feeling nervous, she gave a brilliant presentation.
And notice, despite and in spite of are always followed by a noun or verb ing, not a full sentence.
Despite the rain, noun. Despite it was raining, wrong.
Despite raining, verb ing.
Small grammar point, but important and very commonly confused.
Good catch.
Now, cause and effect. Because this category, this is everywhere in English, in writing, in conversation, in explanations, in arguments.
These words say this happened because of that, or that happened as a result of this.
Therefore, one of the most used academic transition words.
She practiced every day, therefore her English improved rapidly.
As a result, very natural in both writing and speaking.
He forgot to set his alarm. As a result, he missed the meeting.
Very relatable.
Very. Consequently, formal, strong, clear cause and effect.
The company ignored customer feedback. Consequently, they lost a significant number of clients.
So, the most casual, the most everyday.
I was hungry, so I made a sandwich.
Simple, perfect, natural.
Because of this, because of that, very conversational.
It had been raining all week. Because of this, the roads were completely flooded.
And notice, cause and effect words always show a logical connection, a reason, a result, something that follows from something else.
They make your English sound logical, organized, intelligent.
Which is exactly how you want to sound.
Let's talk about one more category, sequence and order.
Because so much of English communication is about order. First this happened, then that, then this, finally this.
In stories, in instructions, in explanations, sequence words are everywhere.
Firstly.
First, preheat the oven to 180 degrees.
Then, next. What comes after?
Then, mix the flour and butter together.
After that, continuing the sequence.
After that, add the eggs one by one.
Subsequently, more formal version of after that.
The report was submitted. Subsequently, the board reviewed it.
Finally, lastly, the end, the conclusion of a sequence.
Finally, bake for 30 minutes until golden.
Eventually, after a period of time, often with a sense of relief or surprise.
I tried for months. Eventually, I passed the exam.
There's always a little emotion in eventually. A little, it took time, but it happened.
Which is very relatable for every English learner.
It really is.
Now, transition words are bridges between ideas. They connect, they explain relationships. Let's go deeper. The difference between however and but.
Oh, yes, because learners often think they mean the same thing, so I can use them interchangeably.
And they do mean similar things, but they are used differently.
But used inside a sentence, joining two clauses.
I wanted to go, but I was too tired.
However, used at the beginning of a new sentence or after a semicolon.
I wanted to go, however, I was too tired.
Starting a sentence with but in formal writing actually quite controversial.
Some people say never do it. Others say it's fine in informal writing.
But in academic writing, formal emails, professional documents.
However is always the safer, smarter choice.
And however also sounds more considered, more thoughtful, like you paused and reflected before making your point.
Which makes your English sound more mature, more sophisticated.
And who doesn't want that?
Nobody. Nobody doesn't want that.
Double negative. Very good, Jack.
I contain multitudes.
Now, let me tell you about a mistake I see all the time, and it's with although and however.
Oh, mixing them up?
Not just mixing them up, using them in the wrong structure.
Tell us.
Learners sometimes write, although I was tired, however, I kept studying.
Ah, I see the problem.
Although already creates the contrast, it doesn't need however as well. You can't use both together.
It's like using two bridges for one river.
Exactly. One bridge is enough. So either, although I was tired, I kept studying.
Or, I was tired, however, I kept studying.
Not both. Never both.
Although I was tired, however, I kept studying. Wrong.
Double contrasting. Too much. The sentence collapses under the weight of double contrasting. Collapses under the weight. I love that.
Now let's look at a category we haven't covered yet, giving examples.
Because transition words are not just for adding, contrasting, and sequencing, they're also for illustrating, showing, proving your point with a concrete example.
For example, the classic, the most used.
Many cities have improved their public transport. For example, Amsterdam has one of the best cycling and tram networks in the world.
For instance, same meaning as for example, slightly more formal.
Several factors contributed to the success. For instance, the team's communication was exceptional throughout.
Such as?
She enjoys outdoor activities such as hiking, cycling, and swimming.
Notice, such as doesn't need a comma before it in all cases, and it's always followed immediately by the examples.
Including, similar to such as.
The package includes several benefits, including free delivery and a 1-year warranty.
To illustrate, more formal, often used in academic writing.
The data shows significant growth. To illustrate, sales increased by 40% in just 6 months.
These example words are so powerful because they don't just make claims, they prove them.
And proven points are always more convincing than unproven ones.
Which is why academic writing and strong professional writing is full of for example and for instance and such as.
Evidence. Always evidence.
Now emphasizing and clarifying, because sometimes you want to make sure your point really lands.
These words say, pay attention. This is important. I really mean this.
In fact, used to add emphasis or correct a misunderstanding.
People think learning a language is impossible as an adult. In fact, research shows adults can learn languages very effectively.
Indeed, formal confirmation, strong agreement.
The results were impressive. Indeed, they exceeded all expectations.
Clearly, used when you want to signal something is obvious or logical.
She had prepared thoroughly. Clearly, all that preparation paid off.
Obviously, similar but slightly more casual.
He hadn't slept properly for days. Obviously, his performance suffered.
Above all, used for the most important point.
You need patience, consistency, and practice. Above all, you need to enjoy the process.
Especially, particularly, used to single out one thing as most important.
I enjoy all kinds of music, especially jazz.
The project went well, particularly in the final stages.
These emphasis words, they give your writing direction. They tell the reader this is the important part. Don't miss this.
And in spoken English, they give your words weight, gravity, presence.
Which makes people actually listen.
Which is the whole point of communication.
Let's talk about concluding and summarizing, because every good piece of writing and every good conversation needs a strong ending.
And transition words help you land that ending smoothly, confidently, memorably.
In conclusion, the classic academic ending signals, I am wrapping up now. Here comes the final point.
In conclusion, transition words are not just grammar tools, they are communication tools.
To summarize, or to sum up, used to quickly review the main points.
To sum up, we covered adding, contrasting, cause and effect, sequence, examples, emphasis, and conclusions.
Overall, a general summary feeling.
Overall, the event was a great success, despite a few small challenges.
In short, very concise, very efficient.
In short, it was the best decision I ever made.
All in all, casual, conversational, warm.
All in all, it was a wonderful experience, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Ultimately, the final deepest truth, the bottom line.